Now, our featured story of the day is going to be covering the Los Angeles riots that are happening right now. And it's very close to my heart, as Los Angeles has been my home for the majority of my adult life. Lived there for over 10 years before moving here last year to Tennessee. And it still feels like it's home. And I think of the corner where I go get my tacos, and I think of the corner where I go and get my ramen, and literally everything's food-based for me out in Los Angeles. And it is a beautiful city and county, and Southern California is one of the most beautiful parts of the world, not just for its geography and its climate, but also the types of people in the melting pot. And what's happening there right now is no surprise if you've been following along. This is the current administration terrorizing people, and they are now in a process to reach their quota of, I guess, 3,000 people a day they're trying to deport. In that process, they are violently ripping people from their communities. And Los Angeles has a very large Mexican-American community, and they are fighting back. And not just the Mexican-Americans of Los Angeles, but all of Los Angeles, it seems, is part of this fight. It feels as though those people that have said in the past, well, just come here the right way, do it the right way, just like my grandparents did, that doesn't exist anymore, because the people that were doing it the right way are being duped daily. Have a listen to this.
ICE texted hundreds of immigrants to show up early for routine check-ins, then arrested them when they arrived. Here's what happened. On June 3rd, Immigrations and Customs Enforcement detained over 2,200 migrants, marking the most arrests made in a single day since the agency was established in 2003. According to NBC News, the surge in numbers comes after White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller met with ICE leadership last month and allegedly threatened to fire senior officials if the agency does not begin making at least 3,000 arrests per day.
Now listen, I'm not going to lie to you. We have a broken immigration system. Obviously, we've had issues at the border. There's that real dilemma between people seeking asylum and not want to not wanting to displace people, and people coming to the U.S. for a better life. And then there's also, like, every country has a border, and you need to protect that border. But just deciding that you're going to deport 1 million people a year, that's not sustainable. And the ripple effect culturally is one that it's more than just a number on an Excel sheet, right? It's heartbreaking. And so many people that are here illegally have tried for a long time to get citizenship. They've tried to go through all the processes. Immigration courts don't have the bandwidth to handle it. If they really wanted to solve this issue, yes, they would shore up the borders, but then they would put more money into the immigration infrastructure so that people can get processed. And there are plenty of people that pay taxes and, of course, do jobs that many Americans would never want to do. Save your time and energy for going after violent criminals, people that are committing actual crime, not just the crime of being here, but actually the people that are harming the way of life. And that's exactly the opposite of what's going on. So Gavin Newsom, governor of California, says he's planning to sue the Trump administration over the National Guard deployment. The National Guard was deployed over the weekend to California, but in most cases, the National Guard works with the governor to set up additional troops if there's an insurgency or an uprising or whatever. But the National Guard actually went around Gavin Newsom, so much so that Trump tweeted calling him, new scum. He calls him by, his bully name or whatever. It's absolutely wild. It's not legal by any means, but it's absolutely wild. I mean, don't the Republican Party, don't they pride themselves in saying they want small government, states' rights? Wasn't the thing? Less federal rights, more states' rights. And here we have the federal government saying that they have to go into California because California is not protecting its people, even though it's the federal government and ICE that is the one that is sort of rupturing an otherwise very, bustling city that's just full of diverse people that was doing just fine without them.
I wonder how you would characterize the events that are unfolding in Los Angeles right now. Is it an emergency? Is it Fox News is calling it the LA riots? Is it a peaceful protest? What's happening and what are you seeing?
Well, look, Donald Trump has created the conditions you see on your TV tonight. He's exacerbated the conditions. He's, lit the proverbial match. He's putting fuel on this fire ever since he announced he was taking over the National Guard. An illegal act, an immoral act, an unconstitutional act, and we're going to test that theory with a lawsuit tomorrow.
And that's exactly what they've done, is file a lawsuit. And now we have Newsom calling Donald Trump a liar. Have a listen.
We talked for almost 20 minutes, and this issue never came up. I kept trying to talk about L.A. He wanted to talk about all these other issues. We had a very decent conversation.
When was this?
This was late Friday night, I think about 1:30 plus his time.
After the protests had started here.
After the protests, and he never once brought up the National Guard. He's a stone-cold liar. He said he did. Stone-cold liar.
There it is. So these are fighting words. And now we have Newsom telling Tom Homan, the guy who's kind of running all, the border czar, he's telling him, you want to make these threats that you're going to arrest me? Come down here and do it.
Homan, the border czar, said to me yesterday, he did not rule out literally arresting you, nor Mayor Bass, if you interfere in his words. He said you hadn't yet.
He's a tough guy. Why doesn't he do that? He knows where to find me. But you know what? Let your hands off 4-year-old girls that are trying to get educated. Let your hands off these poor people are just trying to live their lives, man. Trying to live their lives, paying their taxes. Been here 10 years. The fear, the horror. The hell is this guy? Come after me, arrest me. Let's just get it over with. Tough guy. I don't give a damn. But I care about my community. I care about this community. The hell are they doing? These guys need to grow up. They need to stop. And we need to push back. And I'm sorry to be so clear, but that kind of bloviating is exhausting. So
it is exhausting. And of course, we talked about this last week, and I used a lot of choice words, and I got some comments back from people, but I stand by them, that this is all just divisive fear. It's all fear-based. They use fear to divide people. I was part of the march that happened with Black Lives Matter. I was there, and it was probably 99% peaceful, but the media wants to show the instigators, the looters, the people that will naturally, be there at the fires. There's always going to be someone looting. That's always going to happen, especially in times of despair. But the majority of the people that are protesting this are doing it to protect their family, their honor, and their community, and they're doing it with such love. That's what it comes down to. And it's the most American thing you can do, is to protest. And they're trying to say that all these protests are violent and we need to come in and solve things. And then they're proving themselves right, because then they're shooting bullets at people. It's absolutely wild. So Gavin Newsom says the Secretary of Defense is now threatening to deploy active duty Marines on American soil against its own citizens. This is deranged behavior. So how this what ends up escalating from this, we'll have to see, but I don't see it getting less violent. Here is just a scene. It looks like it's out of a movie.
Looks like pepper balls being deployed, maybe rubber bullets.
These are federal officers emerging from the Metropolitan Detention Center in downtown LA on Saturday. And they say they use what's called less than lethal bullets, rubber bullets. But I mean, you take one to the eye socket, it happened in Boston, and you're dead. They're definitely not safe, but there are ways to try to disperse the crowd. And here we have footage actually of press getting shot by these bullets. Wild times.
Hi everyone, we're here in downtown LA where an immigration protest has turned violent. LAPD has opened fire with rubber rounds. We got hit, you can see there. This is our security guard. You can see that white powder there.
So the security guard got hit, and here on live TV, and you guys know this, I love Australian media. I don't know what it is about Australian media. It's the accent. They just sound so lovely and nice. But here you can see from the left of this footage, a police officer shooting this reporter right here with one of these bullets. Have a listen to this.
Moving them on through the heart of LA. You just shot the
and someone says, you just effing shot the reporter. And when you look at the footage, you see this cop or whoever it is, National Guard, LAPD, whoever it is, you see them literally point in that direction and go for her. So it's absolutely wild what's going on. There's been people that have been shot in the head and they're bleeding, and the cops say they can't call the ambulance. And it's almost like they created this chaos to say, see, look, it's so chaotic. But it's chaotic because you're going into a community who, by the way, historically, before California was California, these lands that we live on were native lands, many of whom, the Mayan culture comes from, right? And it's not just the Mayan culture, right? But this culture that exists here and the borders that divide us, it's so unfair. It's so unfair to see a city that has had so much love for these different populations. Like Los Angeles, the Korean population in LA is the largest Korean population outside of Korea, right? That's huge. I lived in Koreatown. You have the same thing with the Mexican-American population. Los Angeles County is bigger than almost every state's population. It's a giant, giant part of our country. I mean, California's economy is the fourth largest in the world if it was its own country. And here we have the government trying to tell them what they need to do to protect their people. It's just scary out there as we see this escalate. But the people are kind people. And I'm telling you this, I lived there. I've seen it. They're kind people. Here's the community helping sheriff's deputies. The sheriffs had pepper spray in their eyes and the community's helping them.
Of chaos during the protests. This is new video showing restaurant workers helping sheriff's deputies in Compton. You can see some of the deputies sitting in the booths as workers help to flush their eyes. And that's the complicated part. Not everybody who's wearing a badge is a bad person. Of course not. But when Trump ordered 2,000 National Guard to show up, only 300 did. And why is that? Well, a majority or a good amount of the National Guard in California, they're Mexican American. So many people, as a condition to become an American, as a condition for citizenship, had to join the National Guard or do military service. So talk about being placed in an untenable position here. Bernie Sanders seems to always have the right thing to say when it comes down to where we are as a country, how we got here, and how we fix it.
We have a president who is moving this country rapidly into authoritarianism. He is suing media who criticizes him. He is going after law firms who have clients who were against him. He's going after universities that teach courses that he doesn't like. He's threatening to impeach judges who rule against him, and he's usurping the powers of the United States Congress. This guy wants all of the power. He does not believe in the Constitution. He does not believe in the rule of law. My understanding is that the governor of California, the mayor of the city of Los Angeles, did not request the National Guard, but he thinks he has a right to do anything he wants. And I would say that to a large degree, the future of this country rests with a small number of Republicans in the House and Senate who know better, who do know what the Constitution is about.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't hold your breath on them doing the right thing at this point, as they've proven that, publicly they're supporting Trump, even though privately they all detest him. So here are crowds trying to block ICE after multiple people were detained in the downtown Los Angeles raid.
Apparently a raid by ICE here at a business called Ambiance. Then a crowd started forming outside the perimeter. They started actually surrounding these buildings.
We have a piece of video. You can see that they've gotten the people and they put them in these vans. It was a very strange sight to see because they started to leave and there were people who were protesting trying to keep these vans from getting out. And the video seen here is deeply troubling because these officers, look, there's that person in front. And the officers did not stop, these agents or whatever federal authorities they were. And notice how this person continued to stay in front. And the officer did not slow. No officer came out and tried to get this out. And then watch as the person in front falls and hits his head on the ground. And that just seemed like it was an injury. But then these agents then moved aside and then immediately took off. And
then they, take off. And, we've talked about this from the Palestinian student who went to, I believe it was Tufts University, who was arrested because she wrote an opinion piece in a newspaper. And people have said, why are we letting this happen? And in so many cases, these arrests are happening either in courtrooms or kind of in smaller areas. But now that they're coming to the big communities, and I say that because these are massive, massive communities here in Los Angeles. I mean, millions of people in these communities. Now that they're coming here, it's not as easy as going to a courtroom in Vermont and disappearing somebody. I really struggle with the idea that the majority people in our country, the majority religion is Christianity. I struggle with the idea of people thinking that they're on the right side of this story and thinking, well, we need to get rid of these immigrants because they shouldn't be here and they've done this or they've done that. And I struggle because I say, where is the humanity? I'd rather half my audience leave. And now I don't need everyone to have the same opinion as I do. I need people to have humanity and grace and compassion and all these things. So when I see my Christian friends and I see them saying good with them, get them out of here, they're not even seeing these immigrants as people, just like they're not seeing the Palestinians as people, just like in some cases they're not seeing Ukrainians as people. When they're saying, oh, not our money, we don't need to fund that, or the gutting to the USAID, and there's, people that have, AIDS that aren't getting their medication now, and they're dying, hundreds of thousands of people. And you think, good God, where have we gone as a world? Where have we gone if we can't, live by some of the basic teachings of humanity? And why does it take a Jewish American like Bernie Sanders to remind us of some of those teachings?
For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me. End of quote. That, my friends, is what morality is all about.
And here's the truth. We live in a country that can afford universal health care. We live in a country that can afford paid family leave. We live in a country that can afford food stamps for people that are getting back on their feet. We have all of that money. We are the richest country in the world. We have all of that ability. We've also got an insane amount of wealth that goes up to several billionaires, right? There's several billionaires that are worth more than half of our population. So we have the abilities if we all kind of just share it in the right way. And yet we're trying to kick out the brown people because they're the ones causing the problem. That's not true. They're not the problem. It's the billionaires. It's the people that hoard all of the money. They're the problem. Well, as you guys know, one of the reasons I've gotten into so much trouble the last month or two has been over the topic of due process. I've probably lost friendships over it because I live in a country where I think everyone, whether you're being charged with a crime, you have a chance to defend yourself, right? And what we're seeing with the deportations is that under our laws in our country, you're entitled to see an immigration judge, or there's a process where you can defend yourself before being sent out of the country or before being sent, ripped from your family. And Kilmar Abrego Garcia is the perfect example of that, right? They targeted him, arrested him because they said he had gang colors on, even though it was a Chicago Bulls hat. And they made all these accusations about him, sent him to a prison in El Salvador. The Supreme Court rules that they have to send him back to the United States. They drag their feet for a couple months. They make all these crazy accusations. He's denied his due process. And now over the weekend, he's finally returning. And the charges that they are putting against him are laughable. Have a listen.
There was about 2 months of delay, but the Trump administration is now formally complying with the Supreme Court order to facilitate the return, that is, to bring back to America a man that they admitted they mistakenly deported, Abrego Garcia. He returns today from this El Salvador prison, and he will face new federal criminal charges. Garcia is named now in a new indictment that says he was transporting people not legally allowed to be in the country, And the Trump administration, which is now backing off claims that some of its officials made, including the attorney general, that they didn't maybe have to comply or they couldn't comply or they weren't going to do anything. They are now trying on messaging to go on offense and present evidence against the detainee.
So they said they had all this evidence that he was an MS-13, he was a dangerous gang member, they've even called him a murderer, they've said all these crazy things. Now, in the world I live in the world I want to live in, if you're going to make accusations like that, you got to prove it in court. So now they're bringing him back to the country to say he's driven a couple illegal immigrants to work where they probably pay taxes. Are you kidding me? I've done worse as an Uber driver. So it's absolutely wild. Here's what his attorney had to say.
What happened today is an abuse of power. What happened today is the exact opposite of due process, because due process means the opportunity to defend yourself before you're punished, not afterwards. Mr. Abrego Garcia is going to be vigorously defending the charges against him. I think what this really goes to show is that this administration, instead of simply admitting a mistake and apologizing, this matter could have gone away within a week or two after the case being filed. Instead of simply admitting their mistake, they'll stop at nothing at all, even some of the most preposterous charges imaginable, just to avoid admitting that they made a mistake.
I mean, and look, this Pam Bondi lady is a bad person. Here is a reporter asking her the question, saying, maybe I misunderstood. You said he was involved in a murder. Now you're saying he just drove some people to work? Have a listen.
I have two. One's on topic, one's off topic. Maybe I misunderstood you, but you were mentioning, that he had some involvement in a murder, or was connected to groups that had, involved with this other smuggling ring. But to be clear, the only charges he's facing right now are the, human smuggling charges. Just that's the one offense. But the other things that you have talked about are not actually in the indictment?
No, co-conspirators allege that, and we were clear to say that. He is charged with, it's not only very serious charges of alien smuggling. And
so she was going to say he was only charged with this, and she watches her words. Now, Pam Bondi is a bootlicker, an orange bootlicker. She is doing Trump's bidding, and you wonder why. Well, how about this? Dating back almost a decade, the Trump Foundation donated to Pam Bondi, and she was. They broke the law by giving an illegal $25,000 contribution to a political group supporting Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi. But here's the interesting part. After making this donation, Pam Bondi ends up deciding not to pursue charges and investigate Trump's sham university, Trump University. This is the stuff that has happened in plain sight. So she should be the one going to El Salvador prisons. Now, of course, I believe in due process, and I don't think we should be sending anyone to prisons. But just to say that the idea that this guy, Abrego Garcia, has done something wrong, supporting his family, he's got a couple kids, right? The idea that he's done something wrong when we're seeing this corruption that has played out right in front of our faces, it's scary. It's wrong. And what I've learned about myself is I can't shut up about it. I'll be here to cover it and talk about it till they rip the computer and the microphone away from me. And I hope that's why you guys support my channel. Now, the best thing we can do to ensure the safety, and I hate to even say this, and it's not hyperbole, but the safety of myself, my family, and my channel, is share us with a friend. Post about us on Instagram. We are here to speak up to the insanity that's going on. If you want to support the channel privately, you can go to patreon.com/Dave Neal. We have bonus content every single day for as little as $5 a month. And you can catch the private live streams. But again, you can just keep sharing us with your friends on TikTok, Instagram, anywhere you get this content. Thank you guys so much for your support. It's going to be a busy week. We'll see you this afternoon. I'm Dave Neal. This is The Rush.